Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's having a nice weekend and enjoying the sunshine. I do like the sun, but not too much. I hate it when it's sticky like this because this skin does not do well in a lot of sunshine. So I hope you're all taking care, not getting too much sunburn. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're not here to talk about sunburn. We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Newcastle United. So I've made a little PowerPoint on what's coming up in the next few videos and in this video. So in the next few videos, I will be doing a scout report on my league Thiao because I've had a couple of people asking for it and I certainly want to do it, but I just need 24 hours I'm going to sit all day tomorrow, watch videos on them, make notes. I've already scouted them, watched a lot of videos, but I just want a little bit of refresher in my memory. And then I also want to do a video on if a multi-club model would benefit Newcastle United and why clubs are now looking at the multi-club model. So we're going to be breaking that down and see if that could potentially come in the future for Newcastle United. But in this video, there's a couple of things I want to touch upon. Why Newcastle should emphasize on their academy. Liverpool finally understanding Alexander Isak is going nowhere. Tino Livermento speaks about Eddie Howe and Manchester City. Diogo Jota to Newcastle United? I don't think so. And then I'm going to present you a 19-year-old centre-back. But firstly, I want to talk about our academy, and I'll talk about it briefly. I might do a video in depth about it. If you do want to see it, let us know in the comments below. But the importance of academy football and bringing players through now is absolutely massive, especially with the PSR rules that are in place. So it can benefit you in many different ways. In the ideal scenario, you bring a player through, he absolutely excels in your first team, and he's your player for many years to come. And that prevents you spending money on bringing in transfers. So you've got that player, he's come in, imagine Lewis Miley, centre midfielder. He could be our centre midfielder for 10 years. So we've saved 50 million on a transfer. So that's one importance. And that's the ideal scenario because every football fan loves a player that comes through the academy, especially if he's from that city. If he's a Geordie lad, comes through the academy, there's nothing more beautiful in football than seeing that happen. So that is the ideal scenario. Even if they excel in your academy for a couple of years. So I'm just using Lewis Miley as an example because he's come to our academy. Let's say we get 5 years out of Lewis Miley. He's absolutely done wonderful for us, but we've outgrown him a little bit. We're that level above than what he is at this moment in time. You can sell him for 100% profit. So you've gained something from him, but then you're gaining more from him. And that absolutely helps financially with these PSR rules because these PSR rules are here to keep the big six in the traditional big six. I don't like using the big six phrase, but let's just use it for this video. You know, Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, the traditional big six. And I don't know why Tottenham's in there, to be honest, but we should be in there more than Tottenham. But that's a different episode, that is. It's to keep them at the top of the league and having nobody break into that. We all know that. It's preventing us from doing what we want to do, and that is build our squad, whether we're successful or not. That's a different story, but it's even preventing us being ambitious and even trying to do it, and that's a frustrating thing. So we've got to look at alternatives. So if you've got players that come through the academy and excel for you, and then you can sell them for 100% profit later on down the line, or if you develop a good championship, maybe a good Premier League level player, maybe mid-table relegation level player that doesn't really suit your squad, you can just sell them off once you come through the academy for 100% profit. Even if it's 5 million, it's 5 million. Look at the transfers Manchester City have sold from their academy. They get like 18 to 20 million for players that have never even reached first team football. So the importance of a good academy is absolutely massive. Let's say over a 5-year span, if you bring 3 or 4 players through and you sell them on for 100% profit, even if it's 5 million, that's 5 million that's going to increase your budget elsewhere. So the importance of academy is absolute massive. So if I'm sporting director of Newcastle United right now, I'm sitting there thinking, how can we get this academy from tier 2 to tier 1? We want to build this, and the first thing you do is improve the facilities. The better facilities, the more professional it is, the more chance of a grown, very, very exciting players. Secondly, better coaches. The better standard coaches, the better standard players that you will produce. That's just simple facts. So I'll be looking at bringing in the elite of the elite. If you have to spend more on wages, that's what you've got to do, and you're benefiting over the next 5 years from it, I would absolutely be looking at doing that. So the importance of an academy in today's football is absolutely massive. So this is something I would be doing. What else I would be doing is opening up academies around the world. If not opening up academies, getting partnerships with academies around the world, looking at places in Africa where they've got very good academies like Generation Foot, who are probably the biggest academy in Senegal, and I would be looking to partner up with them. And then going to South America, can we partner up with somebody like Santos? So in my opinion, this is why sporting directors are important, because these are the little things that they do behind the scenes. Now, Eddie Howe, he's good at his job. He's terrific, but he can't do everything. No man can be in two places at one time. So we need somebody just to come in and oversee everything, because Eddie Howe is focused on getting the team right, training the team, coaching the team, getting the methods in place. He hasn't got time to do a sporting director's job as well. And to delegate it to somebody that's never done the role is extremely difficult, for especially at this point where Newcastle United are. But talking about Newcastle United, it looks like Liverpool have accepted their fate in Alexander Isak, and it's about time. It's something that us Newcastle fans have been saying. Alexander Isak is not for sale. Newcastle are in the perfect position with Alexander Isak. If he had 1 year left on his contract, it would be a different story, because we either sell him this year or he goes on a free next year. The fact he's got 3 years left on his contract is absolutely massive. One thing I will want to say is, before all this Liverpool hype, there was rumours that Newcastle were going to open contract talks Alexander Isak. Now, this could be Alexander Isak's agent going to people in the know, going to the big social media platforms and saying, let's big up Alexander Isak to Liverpool. And the reason why he does that, and I'll give you an example here. If Alexander Isak is on 20 grand a week, I know he's not on 20 grand a week. I'm just using this as an example. Newcastle have set an asking price of £150 million a week. He can go into these negotiations and say, you're valuing me at £150 million a week. You need to pay me based off my valuation, because those are the talks that will be happening. Newcastle value Alexander Isak at 200 million. His agent will be saying, well, if you're valuing me at 200 million, we're not going to sit down and sign a contract until I'm paid for my valuation, because that's what happened. And this is exactly why agents go to the social media platforms to big up their player, because once they've bigged them up and got a transfer fee in their head, they can go to the club and say, you're valuing me at this, I want to be paid based on my valuation. So that is exactly what is happening. And if Newcastle United don't meet that valuation, Alexander Isak will just say, okay, I'm not signing the contract. I'm not giving you an extra year because you're not paying for me for what I'm worth. So those are the conversations that happen in football quite often. Now, if you're asking me personally what I think is going to happen, I think Alexander Isak stays at the club this year. He has a terrific season for us. He probably gets us back in the Champions League if he scores another 23 goals. But anything can happen. That's just me hoping more than anything. But I do think there's a bigger opportunity for Alexander Isak here, because Lewandowski is going to be leaving Barcelona and Harry Kane is going to need replacing at Bayern Munich. Alexander Isak has already been out in the Bundesliga. Didn't quite work for him for whatever reason. He was immature. He was young at the time. He was going to a different country. That could have been the reason. Or he might not settle in Germany. Germany might just not be the right environment for him. So do I think he'll go to Bayern Munich? Probably not. Do I think there's an opportunity to go to Barcelona? That's probably your best bet. And if you're Newcastle United, you're going to want him to sell to Barcelona more than Liverpool, because you're not going to want to strengthen one of your rivals. So if we get 150 million bid from Liverpool and 150 million from Barcelona, I know which way I'm diving towards. I'm diving towards our Barcelona camp and saying, look, I'll let you speak to Alexander Isak if you can pay 150 million. That's what I'll be doing. But the good news is, lads, Alexander Isak will be playing in black and white next season, and I'm very confident in saying that. But there has been more news come out, and I'm just squashing this because I believe it's just people trying to put 2 and 2 together to make 7, because it just doesn't add up. Diogo Jota is not going to be in Newcastle United's wish list. We're not going to sign a player for 43 million, especially a backup striker. And yes, his numbers are terrific, and somebody's wrote an article on why Newcastle United should sign Diogo Jota, but I disagree with it. He's got terrific numbers, don't get us wrong. 65 goals, 26 assists across 185 games for Liverpool. That is very, very good, considering he didn't start every single game. So he's got a terrific record, and he is a very, very good player. But personally, I just don't think he really suits the way we play. And another reason is probably his age. I don't think he fits the age profile of what we want in our squad, because if we want to build on Alexander Isak, I think the next striker we sign, we're going to want to keep to 3 to 5 years. We want them reaching or coming into their peak at that time. So I think if we are going to replace Alexander Isak with anybody, it's going to be somebody in the region of 20, 23-year-old, like a João Pedro. Even though I don't see João Pedro as an out-and-out striker, that's a sort of age limit I think Eddie Howe will go for. Not not somebody that's coming towards the end of his peak like Diogo Jota. And that's probably the reason why I'm squashing those rumours. I don't think it's going to happen, guys. But then we'll move on to Tino Livermento. And I'm not going to sit and read all this out. I'm going to leave it on there for you to read if you want to read. But pretty much, Tino Livermento has said that how he's in constant contact with manager Eddie Howe, and how Eddie Howe's just telling him to focus on what he's doing at the moment, which has been at the under-21s. He's actually playing tonight, so good luck against Spain, which will be a very, very good game. And I can't wait to watch him because getting tested against the best of his age. So I can't wait for that. And I've got no doubt he is going to shine. But he talks about how Eddie Howe is amazing for him. And I actually think Tino's going nowhere. I think unless Man City are willing to put down 100 million, I actually don't think he's going to go anywhere. But I don't know about you guys. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not an in-the-know type of person. But let me know in the comments below. But one thing I will say is everything we read in the media probably isn't true. The truth is, not me, not you, not anybody watching this, not anybody outside of Newcastle United or in Eddie Howe's little group knows exactly what's going on. We don't know what Alexander Isak's thinking. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes at Newcastle United. We're just speculating. And I hate speculating. I just talk about news that's being put out in the media. I don't try and put out news because I'm not an in-the-know type of person. I just speak about what's being put out and if I think it's true or no truth. Now, one thing I do have is a couple of contacts that work in Holland and their agents, scouts, and I have text my mate saying, please persuade Xavi Simons to come to Newcastle United. He just replied with, ha, 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 ha. So I don't know what that means. But, you know, I'm trying my best. But other news that Ousmane Diomande could be heading to Newcastle United. So there is reports that Newcastle United are ready to hijack Ousmane Diomande to Crystal Palace to come to Newcastle United. Now, personally, I would love this deal. I think he fits exactly what we're looking for. And I'm not really fussed about Mark Gahey. If Mark Gahey wants to go to Liverpool, he can go to Liverpool. I think he showed his true colours last season when we put a bid in for him. If he wanted that move to happen, that move would have happened. I don't think we realise the power players have in football now. They never used to. When a club bid for you, if your club accepted that bid, you would have to leave that club. Now the player has a say in what happens. They have a say in whether they want to stay or want to leave. And it was clear to me that Mark Gahey wasn't pushing for the move. So that tells me he wasn't really fussed about coming. And that probably told Eddie Howe and his staff and the Newcastle United board that he wasn't fussed about coming. So why would we beg a player to come that realistically didn't want to come? So I think we should be looking at alternative. And I think Ousmane Diomande has got a higher ceiling than Mark Gahey, and he fits exactly what we're looking for. We need somebody that's quick, good in one-on-one situations, but I think we're looking for somebody that is super, super comfortable in possession, and I think that's the key element Eddie Howe is looking for. This is just me reading between the lines because we don't have an elite ball player. Fabian Schär's good at it, but he's not the elite level. Ousmane Diomande is at the elite level. So I would love to see us hijacking this deal, but I just can't see it happening. But there is a player that I actually want to put out there that we should sign. He's young, he's inexperienced, he needs room for development. Eddie Howe has proven that he can develop players, and that's Jérémy Jacquet. I think he's going to have a breakout season next season if he hasn't already done so already. If you're not familiar with Ligue 1 and don't watch the French league, you'll not know about him, but he's having an amazing time at the minute at Rennes. His profile is excellent. He's a modern day centre-back known for his height, his strong physique to compete very well. He's got athleticism, he's quick, he's aggressive, covers a large space of the ground. He's tall, he's got quite a lean body shape, but that allows him to control situations. Now, when it comes to his technical ability, he's a very, very comfortable, composed player in possession. He's an excellent ball carrier. He's very progressive in his play. He can step into midfield with the ball. He can break lines to initiate attacks, and he excels in ball distribution and progressing play from the back. That is exactly what we need in our system. Now, he's only 19 years old, so there's a lot of development needed with the player, and hasn't been tested at the highest level. But the first thing you do when you're looking at young players that aren't very experienced is looking at their profile, looking at their what they're good at and saying, how can I raise that another level? How can I sit down with him and teach him how to go from B to A? And that's exactly what you're looking to do with these young players, because you bring them in at 19 years old and you know they're not going to be the finished article. You know you've got some work to do to develop them. Now it's up to you to look and focus in them areas and point out those areas to develop. Now, he's versatile, which is a massive factor. A central defender, but he's comfortable in a back three and a back four. And we've seen that at Reims and at Clermont. He's a progressive defender, which means he's aggressive. And that suits exactly what Newcastle United do, because we go to a man-to-man press, and you often see Fabian Schär, Dan Burn, or Sven Botman moving into midfield to win the ball back. That's what Jérémy Jacquet does. So when you look at the way we play and his elements and what he's good at, it suits our style. Now, again, he's not the finished article, and this is what I always say. And the first thing you need to point out is he hasn't been tested at the elite level. He hasn't played Champions League football, and he hasn't played in the Premier League, and they're probably the two biggest and strongest domestic competitions. So he hasn't been tested in them. So is he going to come in and really put us in a different level? Probably not. But is he going to put us in a different level in a couple of years' time? In my opinion, probably. Now, one thing I really do think is an advantage about him is his height and his range. He's got really long limbs, and that allows him to win duels far more effectively. But he could do with adding on a little bit more muscle to use his body a little bit better in duels. He's proactive and he's aggressive, but that limits his ball recovery ability because he always wants to step out and win the ball. Sometimes he gets caught out. So just a little bit of refinement in his overall game. Decision making with and without the ball, but again, that comes with experience. And he's not your traditional old school box defender. He's a little bit more calculated in the way he defends. So he's a wonderful little talent that we could bring in to build for our future. And if you want to look at a few statistics, this is how he compared at Reims last season. Now, what happened? He went on loan at the start of the year to Clermont, that play in the second division of French football, and he was absolutely monstrous. So Rennes recalled him in January, and he absolutely shone for Reims for the rest of the season. And his statistics at Clermont were absolutely ridiculous. He was winning a far larger amount of duels. He was very progressive. He was very forward in his play. He was carrying the ball into midfield. He was winning a lot of aerial duels. He was just literally a monster in League Two of French football. So I've got no doubt, if you're doing it in the French league, you've got something about you, especially when you're doing it at 19 years old and putting out statistics like this. But again, I want to reiterate, he's not the finished article. He's not going to come in and really put Newcastle United in a different league or win us the Champions League. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying these are the types of profiles and players we should be looking for to build for the future. Because although you need to bring players for the here and now, you also need to think 2 or 3 years ahead. Because Fabian Schär's not getting any younger. Dan Burn's not getting any younger. Sven Botman's not getting any younger. Jamal Lascelles is not getting any younger. So we need to think about our long-term strategy as much as we do this term. Now, is there an opportunity to bring Jérémy Jacquet in and then loan him out for the season? That's also an option. But there's a couple of 18, 19-year-olds that I could mention. There's one playing for Parma called Giovanni Leone. I think he's going to be a terrific defender many years to come. I am going to do a scout report on Malik Tau because a lot of people have requested for it, so why don't I do it? If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to keep up to date with all the videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am moving house and I've got a lot of work to do. Do you know one of those things where you're moving house, right? You've got a job to do, but you think in your head, if I don't do that, it's just going to go away. If I just ignore that problem, it's just going to go away. I need a pack, and I feel like ignoring the problem will just make it go away, even though it won't go away. So in a week's time, I will probably have a new little setup. I'm not going to have just a blank wall behind us. I am going to get a little YouTube setup. I'm going to get some sound panels on the walls, so my voice will probably come across a bit better. So we are going to be upgrading very, very shortly. But if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, guys, away the lads.